What is up, everybody? This is Brighton Nelson from RPG Ranked, and if you enjoy RPG content, please consider liking and subscribing and checking out other videos on this channel after you finish this video. And of course, before we get into this video, I would like to give a big shout out to all the awesome channels that helped me get the gameplay for this video. Saved me a ton of time, and I'm so thankful for their very nice replies, and I'm hoping that they are able to check out this video and see how their gameplay made a difference. These channels are going to be Garo Leader, J Bonk, Let's Go Titan, Fazoid, Umbreon Messiah, King X, Titanium Death Hill, and Roamer. Anyway, let's get right into this video. The top 10 easiest super bosses. Whether they are just straight out easy, they were completely underwhelming and like way easier than they should have been, or they're just completely overhyped and are much easier than most people say they are. And there's some super bosses that are much easier than others, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And of course, there will be 10 of them. Alright, let's get started with the first one, and this super boss is going to be from Final Fantasy V, and that is going to be Omega. Everyone always is like, oh, Omega's a hard super boss, huh? No. This is one where I'm just like, what? Like, use Romeo's Ballad. If you use Romeo's Ballad with the Bard, it casts Stop on it, so basically it can't do anything. And then you just hit it with your hardest attacks, like Thundaga's Spellblade, I don't know, whatever magic you want to use. Like, this is not a hard super boss. His second form is a little bit harder, but still, if you have multiple bards, you can still keep him stopped with Romeo's Ballad. Like, y'all, anyone who's been saying Omega's, like, super hard, like, it's not even one of those ones like Ozma, where, like, it's super easy or super hard, like, depending on RNG. No, this one's just super easy, as long as you actually have leveled up your jobs. So, yeah, I'm going to say this is one of the easiest super bosses I've ever fought, because I was just able to stop it and rapid fire it to death. Alright, let's talk about the next one, which this one wasn't one where it was, like, super cheesable, but it's one that was underwhelming in my opinion, and that is going to be the Radiant Winged one from Tales of Vesperia. A lot of people find this boss very challenging, and I just don't really see why. I think it's a third form of the final boss that is able to be fought after you beat some bonus dungeons. And I just comboed him into a wall with Yuri and took half of his health off of him before he even hit me. I don't really know. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, this is the hardest boss in the game or whatever. But I had a much harder time with Traitor to Heaven. And I had a much harder time with the boss in the Necropolis of Nostalgia. This is definitely not that hard of a super boss, in my opinion. Judging that I just comboed him to death with Yuri and Rita before he barely even hit me, I don't really know. This might just be, this is probably the one on this list that is probably the most subjective, I guess, but it's not like, yeah, this one is one where a lot of people have a hard time with it, but I just thought it was so easy, and I was kind of disappointed, because everyone said it was so hard, and then I just owned it. Alright, next, let's talk about the Guardian of the Worlds in Ni no Kuni. This is a weird one, because it just depends on, like, what familiars you've been using, how well you know the game, and all this stuff. But, just, it's like the final hardest super boss, yet I've grinded it to oblivion. I've beat it, like, 200 times, and each run takes me, 3 to 5 minutes. Just get a Dinosaurus, and spam, like, Haymaker or, like, Boulder over and over again, and it just owns this guy. And as long as you just walk away from his Mega Beam after fighting him, like, once or twice, or just beating him or whatever, it's just so easy to know how to evade his attacks. It's just get behind him. And it's not really anything that's that challenging, and it's super easy to farm rare materials off of the Guardian of the Worlds and get huge experience. I don't really think that this is a hard boss at all. Maybe, yeah, the first time you fight him, like, you might die because you just haven't got accustomed to his attacks. But he's a boss, a super boss that you can just grind in 5 minutes over and over and over again. And any super boss, you can do it in 5 minutes. It doesn't matter how hard, like, how much yeah, it doesn't really matter that it took a bit to grind my Dinosaurus up a bit. Anything that you can beat in 5 minutes has to be on this list, in my opinion. So, yeah. And I just wanted to mention that you can grind rare materials off this guy, like the Kaleidostone and stuff, and Scroll of Truth, because a lot of people actually don't know that, and I find that interesting. Alright, now let's talk about Final Fantasy I's Death Machine, the OG Super Boss, like the first Super Boss ever, I think. And I think that, yes, I didn't put it higher on this list because the NES version, it is actually a hard boss. It has like the same amount of health as the final boss. But in the newer versions, it still has the same amount of health as in the original version. It has less HP than Tiamat, if I remember correctly. Maybe a little bit more. I can't remember. Somewhere around that, but nothing challenging at all. 2,000 health. It regenerates like, what, 50 health per turn. But this is something, temper haste on your monk or warrior, or your ninja, I guess. And you can just obliviate this guy. Yeah. It's not hard. You're, like, compared to Chronadia or Shinru or Omega in Final Fantasy 1, it's just such a pushover. This guy, I beat him in one hit rather easily. Like, this was just so easy. However, since he wasn't just a pushover in the NES version, I'm not going to put him any higher on this list. Alright, next on this list is going to be Bone Tail from Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. If you aren't just completely cheesing the game, this guy can actually be tough as nails. And if you really think about it, like, yeah, but Power Bounce, Power Lift, Rally Wink, I don't know, Boo Sheets, what else? Repel Capes, just any of this stuff, like double dipping, triple dipping, just there's so many ways to break Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. And Bone Tail doesn't have any like weird like invincibility moves like the final boss or anything. It's just, he's basically just a wall of HP that you can easily kill with a Power Bounce. It's nothing that hard, and if you just go into it with right badges, it's super easy. Honestly, it's easier, in my opinion, than the enemies on the floors before. Bone Tail's kind of a pushover, as long as you have, like, a good setup and good materials, and it's nothing hard at all. It's so easy, honestly, just get good. If this guy's super hard for you, I'm sorry, but, like, what? Like, I don't know. If you need help beating this guy, like if you're having a hard time beating this guy, come on, like I'll help you in the comments. But like, yeah, honestly, this is an easy boss, and yeah, anyone who has a hard time beating this guy hasn't figured out how to break the game. Anyway, let's move on. And the next boss on this list is going to be Protobabble, not from Final Fantasy IV, that guy's hard, but Protobabble from Final Fantasy Dimensions 2. This is a weird game, but it's just you go through like 100 floors of this Tower Babble, and there's a bunch of enemies that are like instant killing you and doing all this wacky stuff, crazy status ailments. And then you get to this boss, and it's not really even that hard. Like, it's just a little underwhelming. It's not like so easy, but compared to what it could have been, it was so, just the whole game is rather easy. As long as you get some of the equipment from the Babble Tower, this guy's a complete pushover, easier than a lot of the other bosses on this list. Just use some of those like Chrono Blade abilities, or what are some other ones? Golden Scintillacism, or I don't know, Eternal Darkness, or whatever the heck it's called. Like, just a party of Maro, Amo, and the Death Lord will get you almost an instant win in this fight. It's so easy, as long as you actually like care to set your party up a little bit. If you take like 5 minutes in the menu, you'll be more than powerful enough to beat this boss. It's really that easy. Alright, next let's move on to a weird boss, another Paper Mario one. That's going to be Racktail. You get through 100 floors of the Pit of 100 Trials, again, just like Bone Tail. But this one, you basically are just fighting a slightly more powerful version of Fractail, the first boss in the game. He's not even that much harder, and honestly, you can literally just jump on him with Luigi and just jump on his antenna over and over and over and over again. Sure, if you kind of beat it the normal way and throw things with throw, it's like a little bit harder, I guess. Like, you might get damaged, but like, honestly, this is one of the easiest bosses on this list. And it's not one of those ones where it was like super underwhelming. It's still a fun fight, and it's not like so easy because you probably don't have as many resources or anything after the whole Pit of 100 Trials. But compared to the trials themselves, Racktail's just a pushover, and it's glad to have a bit of a relief. It's a really easy boss fight, but still not as easy as some of the other ones on this list. Next is going to be Final Fantasy IV, the PSP version or the GBA version, the Lunar Ruins Zero Miss EG fight. After you go through the whole Lunar Ruins, you have all these Grimoires that basically can change any enemy into a Toad or mini version of them, and basically, or like, what are some other things, Pig or whatever, and you can do that to this super boss. Think about that. And it happens for like tons of turns. So basically you can just make this boss do like 1 damage. I mean, if you use the Grimoires on basic enemies, you're kind of an idiot and that was your bad. But if you just use some of these things on Zero Miss EG, it's a complete pushover. It's easier than normal Zero Miss because basically the point of this was Zero Miss easy game. It was like the version of Zero Miss that you would fight if you were fighting in easy mode. It's kind of that, but then, so it's not even as hard as the final boss, and then add on top of that, the fact that you can just like completely cheese the boss by hitting him with these different Grimoires. It's just one of the easiest boss fights I've ever fought. Like, you just give him some status effects and you instantly win. And yeah, like, sure, Racktail's gonna be easier, but like, compared, like, this is supposed to be a hard Final Fantasy super boss, and it's just so easy. Whereas Racktail, like, you knew what you were in for. It's just Racktail again. But, like, here, it was kind of those ones where it was, like, it could have been so much harder, but they just made it kind of easy. And I was okay with this since Brachiosaur, like, right beforehand was such a hard boss. It was nice to just have a little fun boss where you could just status effects and stuff, you know. But it was still a very easy boss. Alright, in second place is going to be the Dream Devourer from the remade version of Chrono Trigger for the DS or whatever. And it has 30,000 health. Think about that, 30,000 health. You're like, okay, that could be hard. No, because if you have a party of Ayla, Robo, and Chrono, you can, not 3-shot, because you're not going to be doing 9,999 with Chrono, but you can basically, yeah, well, 3-shot, not counting Chrono's turn, but within, what, 1 or 2 turns of each of your characters, you've already beaten this boss because of how broken you can get. 9,999 damage with Ayla, 9,999 damage with Robo, and then what, like 5,000 damage with Chrono, and then you just do one more hit, and you've beaten the quote-unquote hardest boss in the game. Obviously, there are much harder bosses, but like, come on. By this point, you're so broken that, and you get so many crazy weapons from the final, like, bonus dungeon, that this boss is just a complete pushover. It's kind of sad because, like, Chrono Trigger is a game with a lot of strategy and stuff, and having this be the final hardest boss is kind of sad. Obviously, like, Ocean Palace Lavos or whatever is going to be harder, but this boss, it's just kind of sad that you can just completely own it this easily. Alright, in number 1, I'm going to be talking about the super bosses in my favorite game of all time, Lost Odyssey. And I'm talking about most of the super bosses in this game. There are so many bonus dungeons in this game, it's obscene. And almost all of them, like, the bosses have, like, as much health as, like, just, or less health than bosses in previous dungeons. Or enemies in previous dungeons. Like, the Holy Beast doesn't even have 10,000 health. You can literally just easily one-shot these guys. It's crazy how easy it is. Like, if you go pick up Leveler from the Blue Dragon, you can beat all of these in one hit, except for maybe the legendary Sorcerer Fu or whatever, but then that one you can just use instant death on. Like, all of the bosses, saved like 2 of them, which are the Immortal One and Killalon, all of them are like the easiest super bosses ever, as long as you actually just have a couple of skills. They're easier than most of the enemy fights, honestly. Like, the enemy fights in the Temple of Enlightenment are so much harder than the boss. Like, what were they thinking here? Like, the game gets easier and easier. Like, the second boss of the game is the hardest boss. And, I mean, Immortal 1 and Killalon are probably pretty close. But, like, the fact the second boss is harder than all the super bosses is so sad. Like, this is kind of funny. Like, this is just one where, like, the dungeons are awesome. The whole game is awesome. And then you just get these easy super bosses. And I just had to talk about it because it's my favorite game. And it's kind of funny how easy these bosses are. Thank you guys all for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please check out some other RPG ranked videos. We've ranked a lot of stuff on the channel, and we are going to be doing more of these videos where we're ranking things from multiple games instead of just focusing in on one game. We're going to do more of these videos. Check out rpgrank.com for some articles. That's what we started with. We didn't start with the YouTube channel. We started with our good old articles. Also, check out some merch in the description if you enjoyed this video, as well as leaving a like, subscribe, and ringing that notification bell, because we want to make this more of a full-time thing that we can make more videos for you guys and have a good time doing that and make you guys all happy. Thank you guys all for watching and have a fantastic day. Peace out, RPG nerds.